Live stream moving, and my name is Moshe, and I'm coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. Perhaps you've read about the Galilee in your Bible. That's where I am. That's where I lived for many years. Okay, so what's going on today? Well, let's get the date and everything first. It's Sunday, and it's January 25, and it's 8:14 in the morning. And is it cold today? Yeah, it's reasonably cold today. Let's take a look. We're 53 degrees, and we're going to go up to 65, and that's nice. So it's not going to stay cold, but it is cold right now. Tomorrow we'll hit 69, and then we go to 66, then we go to 63, still no rain. And we stay at 63, and then Saturday we hit 70, and then 70 on Sunday, 73 on Monday, then 71, and I don't see any rain for 10 days. So, Jehovah willing, the winter's finished with us. I mean, the brutal winter, In Israel, 70, 71 degrees is winter. Not really, but, when I was in New York, if it was 70 degrees, I would go to the beach. I mean, it was swimming weather. But people in the UK and Canada would do the same thing. But, here, when you get used to the heat, you want to get it to about 75, 76 before you start saying swimming weather, The dogs, once it hits even, if it's sunny and it hits 63, 65, the dogs are real happy. They love it. Because they got fur. We don't have fur. Imagine if you had your head of hair over your whole body, how much different you would feel outside in the cold. It would be substantial, Okay. We're going to talk a lot about what's going on with Iran because it's getting fascinating, okay? They've deployed 4 submarines in the Strait of Hormuz. That's the choker point to go out of the Persian Gulf into the Sea of Oman and in the Indian Ocean, Arabian Sea, and all that. And they've deployed 4 submarines. Their submarines, some of them have capability to launch cruise missiles from beneath the surface. This is very serious. Now, you need to understand, the Persian Gulf is not very deep like the Atlantic Ocean or something. It's pretty shallow. So their submarines are, they got 2 types they used so far. They got a regular sized submarine that's not nuclear. And then they got little guys that are not as small as a drug cartel submarine, but small. Which means that they're harder to detect and harder to hit. These are diesel submarines, which I want to tell you right now, they're quieter than nuclear submarines by a bunch. Why? Because you charge your batteries when you're running diesel. You got to be on the surface typically so you can get air in and out, And then when you go under the water, you run on batteries, so you don't have, pistons and engines and all that, right? So it's quite a bit harder to detect a diesel submarine under the surface. It's much quieter, okay? Now, the American submarines could probably go down, 1,000, 1,500 feet or something. But nobody's going to go down that deep in the Persian Gulf because it ain't that deep. So the Americans lose an advantage. But, that's a little far-fetched for me to imagine Iranian submarines hunting American submarines. That doesn't sound good. Doesn't sound right. But launching missiles at American Navy ships, that sounds about right. Okay, and they also have torpedoes. All right, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Iran shutting off the oil, how easy it is to do. We're going to talk about how easy it is for Iran to hit the American bases and the oil refineries in the Middle East region. We're going to talk about what Iran's game plan is, how desperate they are. We're going to talk about will they do a preemptive strike. We're going to talk about Iraq and Yemen helping them, the Houthis in Yemen. And we're going to talk about how brutal they are with their people and how they're executing them now. And we're going to analyze how good Trump is behaving in the middle of this, and Netanyahu. We don't hear much from Netanyahu, do we, on this? No. He's playing low, and I'll talk about that too. Okay. I want to jump into the live stream, make sure we got a live stream, and put a quick post up, and then we'll get going. But I've collected a bunch of data on what Iran's up to, and freezing and snowing. Yeah, I'm sorry. You guys got much worse weather than me in the southern states. Sorry. Leave America out of it. Why? First of all, I'm not begging you for money, and if you knew me, you'd know I said a million years that I wish America never gave a dime to Israel, so we'd be rid of them. Okay, that's it. But you better start calling America the daughter of Babylon, genius. And it's rather nice that you hate Israel. So, you probably go to church too, huh? And hate Israel at the same time. Yeah, that's pretty typical. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm gonna put my post up. There's somebody working on the roof here, but I don't think you'll hear them. I don't think it'll be a loud thing. All right, let me pin this and then we'll get going. Okay, being a Bible-believing site, I'm going to do some praise. If you're, and we're Old and New Testament, so if you're a believer and you want to join in, be my guest. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. Can the countries in the Middle East, why that, I'm going to read you a shopping list. These are the oil producing countries in the Middle East: Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and Yemen, which is a very small amount, and Lebanon has a small amount. Egypt's not really in the Middle East; they're over there in Africa, and they don't have a ton, but they do make oil. Okay, so there you have it. Okay, now let me give you some for instances about how you could collapse these countries. Let's take the country of Kuwait, which is run by an absolute real piece of garbage dictator, right up there with a Caesar or Attila the Hun or Stalin or some real living, breathing piece of garbage. Poor excuse for a human. I think they call the leader an emir. He's a dictator king. The previous guy was such a piece of trash. I think the father, he used to marry a new wife every week. Every week. So the Muslims can have 4 wives at one time. So he would have 4. And I don't know, one of his wives was his buddy and friend, and the others were rotational, so something like that. So every week he would divorce a wife. You just say, I divorce you. And he'd bring a new one in. He was practicing prostitution in a way. I believe he had some big domicile, mansionist type place that they moved into when he divorced them. They, got to live there the rest of their life. I don't think he wanted them marrying other men, or I don't know exactly what he did, but that's what I heard he did. This is really a bad person. I believe his son runs the joint now. And this is who Saddam Hussein attacked around 1990. And this is who President at the time, George Bush Sr., defended. Now, why in the world would you ever want a piece of garbage like Kuwait defended by the Americans? Why would they defend such a piece of trash like that? Because the Americans don't mind that kind of behavior. Let's explain. There's about 1 million Kuwaiti citizens that have Kuwaiti passports in Kuwait. And you got about 10 million people that are workers in Kuwait. So workers, like, what do? Well, they work in oil fields, and they were also out there making roads, and they're working in hospitals and universities, stuff like that, right? Construction and so forth. So if Iran starts attacking Kuwait, they would probably hit 2 predominant or primary target packages. Okay, well, actually I have to say 3. Sorry about that. My understanding is the United States has 5,000 military in Kuwait. They would be hit. Okay. Kuwait is very close to Iraq, which has every intention of joining the fight with Iran. And they do not need long-range hypersonic ballistic missiles to reach Kuwait or Bahrain or Qatar or Oman or the UAE or Jordan. Maybe Jordan, they need to get into it a little bit, but they can have Iraq and Yemen hit these places, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, which is not long shots. Not long missile range shots. Okay, so um, they don't have to use very big, sophisticated missiles, which they don't have a lot of. They've got to use missiles that they probably have thousands of. What do they need? 150 mile range missile, 200 to get into Kuwait, maybe maximum. These are not long range missiles. So what would they hit in Kuwait? Well, they would hit the American bases, which might be Air Force and Army or Navy, I don't know. They would hit the oil refineries and stop the oil production. They would probably include hitting oil storage tanks, like at the ports and the piers, and probably missile attack and drone attack the ports and the piers too. Would they go around attacking the workers and the civilian population? Probably not. Then you got Bahrain and Qatar. So Qatar has a big air base that's being stocked up now with F-15s and all kinds of stuff to attack Iran. So they probably have anti-aircraft defenses at that base. Okay? And they will, more than likely, Qatar will try to counterattack Iran after Iran attacks them. Now, so the targets would be predominantly the American bases, and then the target packages would be the ports, the piers, and the refineries, and the LNG, and the liquid natural gas. And that means you're going to get pipelines and stuff like that. Iran could lob missiles and drones all day long at Qatar and Kuwait. And Bahrain is where the Americans have some Navy bases, and they could hit Bahrain. It's another pig dictatorship, and that's could be hit. The UAE is super vulnerable. There's several thousand American soldiers there. Could be more than 8,000, more than 5,000, maybe 8,000. And they've got oil refineries, and they got ports and piers. They also have a lot of money invested in people, very expensive houses, artificial islands, hotels that go 130 stories in the air, amusement parks, theme parks, big malls. Iran could have a field day. Oman. I'm not so sure Iran's mad at Oman, but they might be. The big thing in Oman would be the ports, piers, oil storage tanks, refineries, and I don't believe we have military bases in Oman. Then Jordan, which currently has a lot of military equipment there, especially airplanes. Then Saudi Arabia. Now, will Iran get into spite and start attacking like the palaces of the royal families and stuff? I don't know. It might not. What will happen is these countries could collapse in days. These people are basically idiots. the royal families and the people that live there. Oh, the royal families attend Oxford, Cambridge, Yale, Harvard. How does that work? Well, the royal family goes over to Harvard and builds them a library or a building or a laboratory or something like that. And then they start letting their kids in. So the teachers are told this kid doesn't fail. So they just shine him on and push him through. Basically, it's something like giving him an honorary degree, but they call it a real diploma. They don't care. Where's this kid ever going to work? Never going to have a job. They don't care. So that's how they go to Harvard and Yale. So these people are idiots. And they got to hire foreign workers to do their oil. They hire mercenaries to take care of their military. You know, they hire people to set up a stock market for them, to set up the banking. You know, now, are there middle-class people in these Arab countries that are smart and go to a regular university and actually learn something? Yeah. Right. They're never going to let an individual like that do anything because he's not in the royal family, so he's always grunt work, you know. So what happens when the attack comes? People are going to get killed. The Iranians are not particularly precise and careful. People will get killed and try to flee out of Iran, out of these countries, which are going to have no flights. Because the airlines aren't flying. So a good question is, what the heck are they going to do? I have no idea. No idea. So will their oil stop? Yeah. Will their workers run away and be afraid to come back? Likely. But they got to get out. I don't know how they're going to get out. And when they go to work in these countries, they sign a job contract with them. And they got to surrender their passport to the employer, so they're not free to leave. They're pigs. Shame on America for having diplomatic relations with these pig dictators. There's no human rights there. Nothing. Nothing. Women's rights. Nothing. Not a thing. No freedom of religion. No freedom of speech. Nothing. And America makes friends with them and defends them. And people in America don't care. They run around calling me a Zionist. And look who they defend. You say, oh, America defends Israel. Yeah. Where are the 5,000 or 8,000 troops in Israel today to defend America? Some countries, I think, Saudi or Jordan might have 10,000 soldiers now. Where are they defending Israel? What part of Israel? What city? They're not. They don't have soldiers here to fight for us and with us. Where they're pit bull. That's because Netanyahu lets it happen. Okay, so if Iran launches these missiles, which they have thousands and thousands of them, they need a very long-range missile to hit Israel, not to go across the Persian Gulf, okay? And take out oil refineries. Drones, too, they'll use. They could also use their missile boats that are civilian vessels converted to launch against these oil-producing countries from the water. See, I mean, they don't have Iron Dome, David Sling, Arrow 2, THAAD, Iron Beam like Israel. They don't have these defense mechanisms in these countries. They could do some takedowns, but not much. So 20% of the oil moves through the Persian Gulf. What percentage is in the Middle Eastern countries? Probably 25, 30%. Is that enough to rock and roll oil prices and make them go through the roof? Gosh, yeah. Yeah. You're talking double, triple, quadruple, massive price advances. So these countries can collapse. Okay? Iran, now this Canadian organization is saying that they killed north of 43,000 people, the Iranians did, and 350,000 wounded, and something like 10,000 were blinded. Now, if they did that to their own people, you know what they're going to do to the people of the other countries, don't you? If they collapse, these countries collapse. I mean, you know how bad the oil is now. To compound attacking these countries and the U.S. bases, what Iran intends to do, as evidenced by the 4 submarines at the Straits of Hormuz, is they're not just there to stop American warships from coming into the Persian Gulf. I don't believe that. I think they're there for that reason, of course, but they're going to control the traffic as to who comes in and out. And if they think any of these countries was too cozy with America, which is all of them except Iraq and Yemen, they're going to not let their oil move in and out. Okay. Trying to think of how to present all this to you in a way you could grab it. So Iran is going to do a double prong. They'll attack the oil refineries, they'll attack or close the Straits of Hormuz, and you'll see oil, which is about $60, 60, 64 a barrel, will probably double rather rapidly to 120-ish, and then I wouldn't be surprised to see it go to 300 or more. Now, in that vein, I have an announcement. I want everybody to stand up and give it up for gold. Give gold a hand, guys, because it broke 5,000. It was yesterday, the 24th, what do they call it? Intraday high during the day. So it went up for a little while and it went back under 5,000 and went to 5,005 or 9 or something like that, a few dollars over. but it broke 5,000. That is the resistance points of resistance points. It broke it. That's the first sign. Boom, it got through. Next, it'll break it again, and then might get pushed back, and again, and then it's going to stay there and it's climb again. And silver is maintaining. A little while ago, I checked it, and silver was hanging in there at $103 and change an ounce. That's, guys, this is psycho gaga land. I mean, this is wacko. I mean, right now, gold is like 59.80 something. I think it was 59.89. So it's like $11 or maybe $10.50 under 5,000. 5,000 for gold. Man, is that crazy. So if you went out and got a ring and you got one of these little engagement rings that had a tiny little piece of gold on it with the clasp holding the diamond in there, your gold's not worth that much. But it's still probably, a fourth of an ounce or more. So even if it's a fourth of an ounce, that little piece of gold is $1,200, where, in the old days when gold was, like in the early 2000s, gold was, 220, 250, 270, that little gold for a woman's ring would have been, I don't know, $40, $50, A man's ring was, 1 or 2 with 2 ounces of gold, which is a big man's ring. You're talking it's $10,000. That's if you use 24 karat gold. If you use 14 karat, you're much less than that. So maybe it's $6,000 or $7,000 worth of gold, without any price for workmanship or putting any stones in it or anything. Isn't that crazy? So the jewelry industry is kaputski. You could buy platinum. It's much cheaper and get a platinum ring or a platinum watch. I wouldn't get for the watch, it's the case and the bracelet. I wouldn't get platinum, though. I mean, on a watch or a ring, you could, of course, but for for investment, you want gold and silver. The question in my mind is, how can we not hit $10,000 an ounce when the war with Iran lights up? Because Iraq and Yemen are going to be in the war. So it's a whole regional Middle East war. Now, China, in a period of 56 hours, very recently, like yesterday or something like that, flew 16 humongous cargo planes into Iran. This airlift is not over. It's ongoing. It's continuing. What's in these planes? My guess? Anti-aircraft missile systems. My guess. Okay? Do I know for sure? No. We're in end times, okay? We're getting there. We're in recompenses. We're not just coming to the close of the 2,000-year punishment. We're in recompenses, getting ready to get into the day of vengeance, then redemption. So is it possible that Iran is shining on America and telling them, oh, yeah, we're just giving them, defensive missiles, when in fact they may have given them 30 or so good long-range missiles that could strike Europe and America? I don't think they could strike America from Iran. Can they strike Europe? I think so. But maybe they're anti-ship missiles to help Iran take out American ships. I don't know. Do we know if Netanyahu and Trump know what's in these planes? I don't know. They may not. And this can stop Trump from attacking. Trump is like a child, like with his board of peace. Hey, you could be in my club. You can't be in our club. That's what little kids do. You could come and be in our treehouse. No, you can't. They'll always like to find some kids to pick on and exclude them, and stuff. They're all the Satan bots are like children, including the Donald. He's like a very twisted child. Okay. Uh, I think he's gone off the deep end. Now, I think he's so afraid. He's so scared that if he gets the idea there's something in those cargo planes from China that could be a threat, he may break off the attack. Now, China may not have told Trump what they gave him. Trump could have asked China and they said no. We're not telling you. Trump could have told them, you give any offensive weapons to Iran, we're going to come after you. And China may have ignored them, or China may have come back at them and said, we didn't do that. We wouldn't do that. But then on the other hand, Trump does it with Ukraine to attack Russia. So maybe Russia gave, because there's been Russian planes too, maybe Russia gave some Orishnik missiles to them or something. Is it possible that Trump is Looney Tunes enough to just go forward with the war, not caring what China gave them? Yes. So, yeah, Trump may back out. That's what China would love to see. Trump just back out. Because that means their oil flow is going to continue. If Trump backs out, Iran's going to ignore the sanctions. And they're going to move oil to China, and China's going to ignore them also. And they'll probably start sending escort vessels with their oil tankers. So they might put a group of 6 oil tankers together and send an escort vessel with them, which will attack the Americans if they interfere and stuff like that. We don't know. I'm going to take a break. I don't know what's going to happen yet. Okay, what it looks like right now is that Trump's all in. But he's a baby. He's scared. It's like a little kid. He's scared. So don't think he can back out. I don't know. Doesn't look like it. I'll be right back. Now, some idiot on the internet was writing the other day. He said Israel called up 280,000 reservists. That's funny. I live here and I didn't hear anything about that. It's lies. We don't know if the George Bush aircraft carrier group is actually going to be in the fight. I don't know where the darn thing is. I can't find out. It should be in position, whatever the heck it was headed to. I don't know. The Abraham Lincoln should be ready to go. It might be Trump's bringing more aircraft in. I don't know. Iran's very active. They're flying their fighter jets up in the sky. Their fighter jets are old. They got a handful of newer ones from China, I think. But, you know, the American pilots would be so happy to engage the Iranian fighter jets. If they wouldn't get in trouble for it, they would send phony orders to the Iranian pilots to launch their planes and get up in the air. Because if one of these guys can kill 3 fighter jets or 3 aircraft, I think it's fighter jets, he or she becomes an ace and they get all sorts of special treatment. There's not that many aces in the American military. Pilots, there's very few. In Vietnam, they had them. In World War II, they had them, but they don't really have them much anymore. If Iran's dumb enough to launch their planes, the Americans would only be too happy to shoot them down. Or the Israeli pilots would like to shoot them down too. Now, if they get anywhere near the American Navy ships, they're going to fire at them. Iran doesn't have much chance with their aircraft. This time, it looks like Iran's going to use their Navy, and that's going to be very interesting. If Iran can sink the Abraham Lincoln, the propaganda value they would get out of that would be massive. Not just damage it, sink it. Can they do it? Probably not. But you don't know. Probably not. If Trump put the Abraham Lincoln carrier into the Persian Gulf at onset, it would probably get sunk going through the Straits of Hormuz. But Trump ain't going to do that. Not that stupid. The admirals wouldn't let him. I wonder who the heck they got on that boat running it, a captain or an admiral, I don't know. A captain in the Navy is like a full-bird colonel in the Army. It's the rank just before general in the Army, and in the Navy, the captain is just before admiral, which is equivalent to a general. So what? I don't know what's going to go on here. I really don't know. I think Trump won't bring the Navy into the Persian Gulf until the latter stages of the war. Now, if Trump, I heard an expert say this, and I think he's right. If Trump just wants to go in and do a few strikes for 1, 2, 3 days on Iran, something like that, that's one thing. If Trump tries to run a sustained war, like 30, 50 days, even 12 days on Iran, there's no way that America can stop Iran from wrecking the Middle East and curtailing the oil. And that will cause an economic chaos to America and South America and Europe and Africa and everybody else. It'll be nuts. Now, if China can keep Iran floating, so to speak, and oil goes to $300, they're still going to be getting it from Iran for $40 or $50 a barrel. They've got tremendous advantages in keeping their products competitive. So, it also depends on how long Iran wants to put up with Trump's attacks. But you see, let me tell you what's going on. They're taking thousands of prisoners from the protests, or hundreds or thousands, I don't know, many, and they're putting them in warehouses. And they're not registering them in their criminal justice system. They're not, in other words, they're not giving them a case number and charges and setting a court date or none of that. It's not proceeding to the courts. They're just keeping them there and taking them out in groups and murdering them. Okay? Quietly. I told you they would do that. They're murdering them. So, does Trump know that? Yeah. Trump and his stupid procrastination probably cost the lives of at least 30,000 people by now or more. Everything with the protests was being managed like by MI6, French intelligence, CIA, Mossad, And these protesters are being directed by the internet. So they were being observed. And they were also observing where the police and the security forces were and telling them, okay, now go here, take this route. On the way, you'll see these 3 banks, destroy the banks. They destroyed hundreds of bank branches. That shuts the country down, by the way. The bank branches were destroyed. So they got hundreds of them. They were moving fast and effectively. They were being told what stores to hit, what route to take, and everything. And then when the internet went down, they fell apart. Can Trump restore the internet? Nah, that's a rough nut to crack. I'm not so sure. Starlink could be, it's still there, but they're blocking it electronically. Now that has hope. What I believe Trump's going to do is it's unconventional warfare. Attack the Iran military and leave their oil alone. Leave their civilian infrastructure like railroads, trains, um, pipelines, refineries, ports. Leave that stuff alone. Just focus on the military. And at the same time, get the protesters to light up again and start attacking more government infrastructure. How is Trump going to stop the assassinations of the protesters? I don't think he can. They'll accelerate it when the attacks come, and they'll be assassinating round the clock. You're not going to stop that. The way Netanyahu's been behaving, there's so little talk of Iran. He might not be invited to attack Iran. And Iran may not attack Israel if Israel doesn't attack them. So then you got the neighbors killing each other, which is like very good for the recompense period that we're in. So that's a likely occurrence, but I can't guarantee it, but it looks that way. Normally, Netanyahu would be behaving differently if he was intending to hit Iran. Okay, now a lot of the stuff I'm getting is coming from Arab social media, not the garbage stuff, the good stuff. So let me give you some things that I'm picking up. I told you that the missiles to hit the American bases and the oil refineries in the Middle East are rather short range, or maybe lightweight, medium range at best, but it's close. Let's get some figures for like average distance across the Persian Gulf. Let's see if we get that. What is the average distance in miles across the Persian Gulf? Estimates are fine. Short version. See, I was right. The average distance is 120 miles. The narrowest points, the Straits of Hormuz, is 35 to 40 miles. That's probably almost artillery range, okay? Uh, the very widest section is 200 miles, but they don't have to use that. Okay. Now, this is what we got out of the Arab social media, which is considered good sources. We don't just take the guy that I know that did it, didn't just take it from anywhere. I got it from him. I know who he is. The United States informed Iraq, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE about an attack on Iran that is expected to begin very soon. Well, I heard another version that said in the coming days, a few days. The submarines in the Straits of Hormuz is rather troubling because they're not going to necessarily be that easy to kill, and they can kill American warships. So this is a troubling thing for America. If you get anything out of this, you need to understand how insane Iran is, unless they're getting so much help from China, and we haven't realized it yet. China has not moved warships and aircraft over to the Middle East, by the way, nor has Russia. So I'm not expecting much. For them to mobilize and come into position, probably like America, 14 days. And highly probable there won't be an Iran in 14 days. There'll be a place where Iran as a country used to be, but it is no more. Okay. Now we go to Israel Channel 12, and that's considered a reputable source of information in Israel. Israel expects that the U.S. will attack Iran, even though President Trump still has to make a final firm decision, sign an order or something like that. The U.S. still needs a few days to deploy forces to the region. In the end, it's believed that Trump will decide to attack. So that's the decision, but the Americans are still deploying more military equipment into the region. Well, I could greatly appreciate the fact that Trump doesn't want to be outgunned. Yeah, but he should be appreciating the fact that thousands of Iranian citizens that were helping America overthrow Khomeini rather, are getting killed all this time. I think Trump will probably attack as well, but we also need to be thinking that if Iran believes that the attack is imminent, they would do better to do a preemptive strike. But the problem that they're seeing is if they do a preemptive strike, a first strike, a sneak attack on America, then they don't have any constitutional issues with Trump that they hope could be exploited and get Trump out of office. But not seeing that. Okay. Iran's Air Force, if you want to call it that, are doing practicing for low altitude strikes in Tehran. So one good question is, who the heck are they going to hit at a low altitude in Tehran? I'm confused. Maybe they're planning on hitting the protesters. See, Trump's going to have a hybrid warfare. He's going to try to pound the IRGC and the Bajil militia, that's volunteers, who are the ones killing the protesters, drive them nuts with all sorts of attacks, drones, missiles, aircraft, anything and everything attacking them. And then the protesters could run wild again. And use the protesters to get a regime change. And I think Trump would love to have Khomeini in court in New York. He'd love that stuff. But I'll tell you something right now. He wouldn't cry too much if Khomeini was hanging with a rope around his neck off a streetlight. I don't think he'd care that much. He'd care, but not that much. People in Iran would make a poster of that picture and distribute it to everybody. They'd put it up on their walls. That's how hated a man is, like that. And when you got a hate level like that, it's very hard to survive. You think God likes Iran, what they do to Israel all these years? You think he likes it? See, when Iran goes, it's a good symptom that recompenses is advancing to culmination and redemption's coming closer and closer. Because they've been the thorn in our side for, many years, supporting taking the oil money and supporting terrorist organizations. I mean, they've been supporting them in the West Bank, in Lebanon, in Gaza, in Yemen, in Syria, in Iraq. My gosh, all over the place. If China has given Iran good anti-aircraft systems, now that's maybe a very difficult situation because China might not have any, but if they did and they could shoot down American jets, well, this is going to be an interesting dilemma. What will Trump do? Well, he'll try different things, missiles, jets, different stealth jets to take out the radar, and eventually he'll get in, but that's crazy. So China had been bringing cargo planes into Iran before this 56-hour airlift with 16 big cargo planes. They probably brought another 15 or 16 in previously. So that's a lot of ordnance in there. I don't know what the heck they gave them. You know, I don't know. And, we like to run around assuming that the Americans and the, Mossad know, but they may not know. And Iran is so defiant, they're still executing. What do they got to execute these people for? Why don't they just leave them in the warehouse and feed them? Well, yeah, you see what I'm saying? Why are they doing that? Because they want the protesters to scatter them so this doesn't happen. They probably have thought of the concept of Trump using the protesters to overthrow the government. I'm sure that they've discussed that anyway. Okay. So it's the Iranian people. It's no secret, and the Iranian government doesn't want it to be a secret that they're running around murdering in wholesale quantities these protesters without giving them any court trial. They're just doing summary execution. They're calling them terrorists or something and just killing them. The amount of people that are being held in the warehouses for execution, it's like a death row they've created, is in the thousands. So, um, but they've already killed a bunch already. Yeah, these are real, pig dictators like Hitler and stuff like that, and they're doing this to their own people. Could you imagine if they attacked like Germany or something, what they would do to them? My gosh. Don't know. They're twisted, mentally sick people. All right. This woman named Kamia Al-Zadeh, I'm sure I butchered that. The first Iranian woman to win the Olympic medal, um, wrote on the social network X, that's Elon Musk, used to be Twitter, that a lawyer from inside Iran informed her that the Islamic Republic is executing defendants. So I think it's common knowledge that uh, they're continuing the executions, and we're not hearing Trump talk about that. Why? Because that would be Trump committing to attacking Iran, and he hasn't done that yet. Trump is like the rest of them. Trump's dream is, to do the Trump casino resorts in Gaza, put an airport in, ports, and, an ocean port. It looks like there's going to be a collision with Hamas. Oh, okay. Back to the Kurds, who could be lost tribes, and I think they are, possibly, but I can't prove it. The Kurds are the largest minority in the world without a state. Sounds like lost tribes, but can't be conclusive. There are about 40 million Kurds in Turkey, Iran, Syria, and Iraq. So, geographically, it's a pretty good fit, but we don't know. The the regions where you find the Kurds are normally Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. But despite this, they are united as one person. I don't know how much unity there is with them. I'm not so sure. Some probably, but I don't know the extent of it. In Afghanistan, they had heavy snow and rainfall, 61 dead and 110 injured in 3 days. Now, if the people weren't getting so used to the continuing whirlwind of the Lord falling on the head of the wicked, this would have got much bigger news, but the people are kind of numb to these things now. All right. Trump's border peace thing in Gaza looks like it's falling apart. Israel plans on attacking Hamas again. Trump's failed with that. I just think it's a failure. I don't think it's going to work out for him. And it was a definite uh, bad thing for Israel. He was going to turn basically the destiny of Hamas, the murderers of the Jews in Israel, over to the Muslims in a lot of countries. So, listen to this. The Iranian opposition, that's the protesters, it is now revealed that the number of people killed by the regime exceeds, that means it's over 80,000. Do I believe them? More than I would the Iranian government or, the American or something like that. Yeah, I think they know what they're talking about. Over 80,000. And Trump was responsible for a lot of this by telling them he's going to come, help is coming, help is coming. It's been weeks, nothing. And they're still getting killed. You want to trust Trump? You want to rely on Trump? How do you think Israel feels after they watch Trump in action? You want to rely on him? Huh? Would you? Would you rely on him? Now, when we go back now to Syria, the Kurds there, Giuliani's men are capturing the Kurdish women and treating them as property. I'm not going to get graphic, but you know what they're going to do with them over and over and over and over again, probably till they die. That's what they did to a lot of the Israeli women they took hostage. They just do it over and over and over till they die. Now you got to listen to this. Multiple Iranian flagged vessels. Now, an Iranian flagged vessel could likely be a commercial-looking ship that really launches drones and missiles, because they got a lot of that. Was tracked near the UAE, of course, in the waters, the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman, as the USS Abraham Lincoln carrier strike group heads towards the region. So the tensions are pretty high. A UAE is a target-rich atmosphere. I mean, they got hotels. It's nothing to see a 60-foot high hotel in the UAE. What does that cost to build, right? How many billion? So they could take that stuff down, with missiles and drones easily. You take a 60 or 100-foot building and hit it with a drone explosion, a nice 100-pound explosive or a good missile with a few 100-pound warhead. And that thing is not going to pass structure. You're going to have to rebuild or rip it down and start over again. It's very expensive. Witkoff and Kushner were in Israel, supposedly just about Gaza, which is probably true. I don't think the war would start until Witkoff and Kushner are out of Israel. And are they out of Israel now? I think they probably are. I'd have to verify that. I don't know. They could still be here, but I think they left. I think they're gone. They weren't here to, chew the fat. They were here to dictate and tell Israel what Trump wants to see happen in Gaza with Hamas and all of that. That's what's going on. So it's a real tense situation. Now Trump keeps talking about bringing in another armada or something like that. Guys, I can't find no trace of it. There's about 25 or 30 warships in the region from America. That's it. And a bunch of planes. And that's it. And, a lot of secrets being kept. Like, where the heck is that Bush aircraft carrier? You know? Where are the other aircraft carriers? This is a problem. We don't know. Bush knows. I mean, Trump knows, but we don't know. So I don't know where. I don't know what's happening. Um, all I can do with the Bush aircraft carrier is really guess, and I think it's around by Cyprus, but that's just guesswork. I don't know. So I guess the bad weather in America is ongoing now for another day or two. I think this is day two, and you might have tomorrow, and then it'll start coming out of it. It's really ugly. Um, I'm pretty glad to hear that it's not going to keep going. Uh, Let me see if we got any new war developments real quick. So it looks like it's a go. Oh, the social media lit up like a Christmas tree. Let's see what happened. I don't know what happened. Let's read it, if anything really happened. Uh, no, the National Guard did get deployed in Minneapolis. So Syria extended the ceasefire with the Kurds by 15 days. Well, we'll see if it holds up. I doubt it will. Okay. I'm not seeing any wars breaking out. Let's see. I got to cut through the junk they put up just to fill space. The younger son of the trash bucket, the Khomeini, um, is serving like doing office work, running the government or something like that, because Khomeini went into some sort of bunker and they're not letting him come out, or he doesn't want to come out. I don't know. Oh, this jerk iPad. I can't stand these things. Okay, hold on a minute. Now we're talking about an American airlift to the region. Okay, what's the latest? 9 flights of heavy American transporter aircraft, like the C-17A type, were uh, they were observed coming into the Middle East yesterday. But what country? Since the 18th of the month, that would bring us to a week. There have been 36 flights recorded into the Middle East. 36 flights of large cargo planes. So China, I don't think, did that many. So there's been airlifts all over the place. Who are the Americans bringing this stuff into? Well, probably the oil-producing countries and possibly Israel. So Minneapolis is boiling over with these ICE agents and shooting civilians and stuff like that. And they got the National Guard in there. It's going to calm down. It's by itself. It's not going to be the end of America unless it starts a chain reaction, which so far not happening. The Iranian opposition people are reporting that there's been GPS disruptions in the Tehran area. Well, that would be pretty typical for pre-invasion to cyber attack and start taking out radar and whatever else you're going to take out. GPS is a standard one. Trump's bothering Canada again about trade agreements. Um, Government Carney allows Canada to be a port for shipping Chinese goods to the U.S. will impose 100% tariff on Canada. See, Carney shouldn't have done that. So China's bringing goods into Canada, and then Canada is, I don't know, relabeling them or just lying and saying they're Canadian and just bringing it in at lower taxes or something like that. Well, it says America's going to be attacked from the north country, which is Canada. There's nobody up there in the north that could attack them other than Alaska, which is America. So it's Canada. So Canada would be likely making nice with China and Russia and North Korea, and they'll come in there and then come into America. That's how I see it. I could be wrong, but that's how I see it. Khomeini is in some special bunker they got for this psychopath in Iran. So that's why he has his kid running it. Will the Americans want to kidnap his kid? Well, his kid's not 14. He's a grown man and a terrorist in his own right. So they might, but then again, they might not care. Let's see. So we're on the verge of war. You have to understand that. And when the war starts, there's going to be a lot of reporting that I'll be doing. And a lot of that'll, because I'm in the Middle East, I'll be able to pick up a lot of news that other people aren't going to pick up probably for 12 hours after. This is somebody who's saying they got an urgent message from somebody inside of Iran. Islamic Republic is reportedly refusing to hand over the bodies of the fallen to their families. The goal is to hold them until a U.S. military strike, then frame these deaths as so yeah, we know Iran's playing games with the bodies. They don't want it getting out there, documented how many dead bodies they got, and stuff like that. It's very difficult to see. Iran's best move would be to make a preemptive strike, but they probably don't figure that they're going to get anywhere with that. They'll just cause damage. It's not going to help their cause. Well, there's reports that Erdogan of Turkey, his health is deteriorating. Well, that doesn't surprise me as much as he expresses his hatred for Israel, and he's a transactional Satan bot. So what do you expect? Yeah. Oh, that's good. So here we are sitting at the verge of the war, and you're deceiving yourself if you think that this can't get a chain reaction going and the nations all over the world start fighting. Oh, don't think that. It could happen. Do I see signs of it? No, no. But we got to watch it. You know, China and Russia might be saying to each other or to Trump, well, you know, okay, Trump wants to strike Iran and drop a few bombs and, you know, get the protesters put in hospitals with medical care and out of jail. What do we care? Let them do it, right? But if they see a systemic move by Trump to suppress the IRGC and the other security forces while the protesters destroy Iran, sufficiently to do a regime change, when that time comes, they fly the Shah's son in, and a lot of soldiers are going to have to go to Tehran and put him in charge, and that's it. It'll help greatly if they have Khomeini dead or in exile. If that happens, then BRICS is in bad shape. BRICS doesn't have that. You know, Russia doesn't have that much oil to sell. The Iranians have been doing a tap dance on the head of the Ukrainians have been doing a tap dance on the head of Russia's oil, and he's got it curtailed. He's not selling gasoline and stuff like that. He's in trouble. Russia doesn't have. Ukraine's really done a great job, and that's Trump doing that. You know, and Biden too, feeding weapons to Ukraine to attack the oil of Russia. I'll be right back, and it worked. So you got to be aware that sleeper agents could get deployed in the United States. If you think Iran doesn't have sleeper agents in the United States, think again. Russia's got them. China's got them. It's predominantly China that calls the shots. After China comes Russia. So Iran is in the back burner with North Korea and, stuff like that. They've had a taste of Trump and they don't like what they tasted. Tariffs, sanctions, they hate it. I'm not very happy with Trump because of what he did with Gaza. See, you got to look at what's Trump's real plan. Oh, I'm just going to go drop bombs on Iran. No, he's got more of a plan than that. I think the plan is the protesters, with support from Trump's aircraft, finish the job. But we know Iran gets destroyed so bad, nobody lives there anymore, and they all leave. So if I was going to gamble at this, I would say, well, it looks like Iran manages to kill the protesters. Trump and the other countries, Germany, France, and the UK, maybe Israel too, are killing the Iranians, and the Iranians are killing their own people. And a few weeks of that, and you're not going to have much of a country. There's a lot of countries that are not joining Trump's border peace. So it looks like it's going to fall apart. I would pretty much think so. It will likely function for a little while in Gaza, but that's it. He doesn't have enough horsepower. He's not getting, big countries in there. UK, I don't think's in there. Germany's not in there. Italy's not in there. Spain's not in there. I don't think Switzerland's in there. Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, not in there. Sweden's not in there, I don't think. Norway, no. Denmark, no. Mexico, no. Brazil, no. I don't know if Japan went in or Taiwan, but he doesn't have a lot of horsepower in there. He doesn't. So, from the feedback we're getting, I would say by the end of this week, the attack should happen. By Friday or Saturday. That's my guess. You're seeing airlines stop flying in Iran, not Israel. But some, I think, stopped. Is Trump actually moving another Navy armada over here that we don't know about? I don't know, but I don't think so. Somebody would have picked it up. I can't even pick up anything on where the Bush aircraft carrier is. I don't know. If the war breaks out, it likely will turn up. I don't know. It's weird that that happened. I'm surprised intel services from another country don't pick it up and report it. That's kind of confusing to me why that doesn't happen. If he's leaving the Abraham Lincoln alone, it means he doesn't want those capital boats near Iran. He's afraid of losing them. It's a funny war. I don't know what Iran's going to do. They're going to be getting hit by four NATO countries: America, UK, France, and Germany. So they're teetering dangerously close to doing something that calls NATO down on their heads. Plus, they could pick up Israel, which is no small thing. It's weird, but you still have to leave room for Trump punking out and just abandoning the war because he's Trump. You got to always leave room for that. I think he's serious here. He knows tens of thousands of people were killed. He knows they're executing people. But he's fearful. He's getting a lot of tossed salad. Very fearful. The longer he waits, the more dead in Iran. And the less likely the protesters are going to want to rise up with him and give it another go. I think they'll give him one more chance. If he pulls out and leaves him in the lurch to get executed, they'll never try him again. And Trump is entirely capable of that. So you got to remember there is a chance that this blows over. Trump won't let it blow over unless the executions stop, but it's gone so far. 80,000 dead, they say, Trump may agree that it's gone too far. All that has to happen are sleeper agents need to be deployed. China breaks loose, maybe attacks in Asia, Taiwan, Japan, North Korea attacks South Korea. And then Russia expands the war into some other countries in Europe. And then, my friends, the whole world is going crazy, basically. So what do? Well, we watch. We're not going to have a long wait. If Trump backs out, then the daughter of Babylon is not much longer for this world, because the Chinese and the Russians and North Trump's afraid to do anything, and they're going to wipe their feet on him. That's what will happen. So if he does that, the end will be closer. Let me see if we got any questions in the live stream. Romania. I was in Bucharest once. Romania is a nice country. People are nice too, really. Like I said, I'm in Israel in the Galilee. Thanks for all you people that are praying for us. Appreciate it. Let's see. Someone says, could it mean fiat money? It depends who wins the war. If Iran gets demolished, it's not going to, well, of course, Iran already has fiat money. It's not going to mean much for fiat money in America, no. U.S. dollar will get stronger if they blast Iran badly. And gold and silver will go to great heights. Depends on how big the war gets and how many people are involved with the gold and silver, but it's going to go up. It's not going to go down. It's going to go up. It's going to be impressive, I think. What's happening here? Let's see. There we go. Oh, you're in Central Texas. It's pretty brutal, huh? Yeah, I could believe that. Yeah, it's end times. We're coming into the day of vengeance. We're in the period of recompenses. We have been over 2 years now. And we're approaching the day of vengeance. I covered that stuff yesterday again, by the way. So, could other countries that we're not expecting add in to the fight with Iran? I don't think so. Afghanistan hates them. They might attack. They might attack Iran with America. They can't stand the Iranians. They don't like them at all. I'm not picking up any indications that they're going to attack them, but it could be. Um, I don't know, you know. Um, Not seriously expecting it. Well, I got a little news update. Let me look at this, see if it's any interest. Let's see. Um, we're putting up border posts with Jordan again. The border, one of the border crossings is right near me. Um, that's not a real, that's a precautionary move that Israel's taking. It's probably founded in reality, and that's okay. That's not going to light anything up. Um, we could take a quick look at what's gold and silver now. I haven't checked it for hours, so let's take a look. Uh, we'll go to Kitco, KITCO. They got real time data. Um, wow, it's hilarious. So gold is 49.83 and 10 cents. Wow, it's so close to 5,000. And it did break 5,000 yesterday, briefly. And the silver's hanging at 103. Now, in recent weeks, uh, platinum was down to 1,600. It's now $2,776. So it's half the price of gold. So if you're going to get a wedding ring, get it in platinum. Except you might not like it in platinum. Platinum's kind of a white metal, like a steel looking kind of thing, but more white, and it's normally not very shiny. Can you put a high shine on platinum? Let's look. I think you can, but I think it's such a tough metal. It takes too much time and money. I'll research it quickly. Um, Regarding platinum, can you put a high shine polish on platinum jewelry? Let's see. It says yes. You can get mirror-like. Get it to pass for white gold. Platinum tends to get a patina on it, which is like it colors. But I'll tell you how you can get rid of the patina real easy. Just polish it with a jeweler's cloth once every couple of months. You wouldn't get it. Or just send it in for another high polish. So yeah, you can. So you could buy platinum at about half the price of gold, and have the jeweler, if you're making jewelry like a ring, have him put a high polish on it, and it'll look like white gold. It'll have a different tinge. People that understand and know these things will know what it is. Rolex and a lot of other companies make platinum watches, the bracelet and the case, the crown, all of that stuff. But in the past, they were charging more for platinum than gold. But now I would think they'd have to charge less for platinum than gold. Uh, I don't know. I don't know. But that would be one way to the jewelry industry. The jewelry industry is falling apart. The Beers family with the diamonds are just a bunch of crooks. They got synthetic diamonds now. They put them in a machine. They take a while to grow them. And they could generate a diamond that will generate diamond on most of the diamond testers. There are one type of diamond tester that you put it in there even on jewelry, and it measures the heat. It heats it up or something, or measures how much heat it retains. And apparently the heat levels of the machine-made diamonds are not the same as the natural grown diamonds. But the machine diamonds are diamonds. Okay? For sure, they're diamonds. Okay? And they try to get you to buy them at half the price. I think more realistic would be about a tenth of the price. The jewelers are trying to save the diamond industry, and the way they're trying to save it is get you to spend half the price of a natural stone on an artificial diamond, machine grown. So they're inflating the price tremendously higher than what it should be. And they're hoping they can make a living that way. But they're such crooks. They're finished. They really are. You can get machine-made rubies, sapphires, and emeralds that nobody in the human eye is going to tell the difference. And I don't even think you're going to tell with a loupe or even a microscope. You'd have to have sophisticated testing equipment. So that's just kill, and these things are cheap. I mean, little, sapphires that are cut and all that stuff, they're like in a brilliant cut. Yeah, they should pay for a little one. I don't know, you pay $1 or $2 for something. Maybe they charge you 5 or 10 today. But they're very, very inexpensive. And the same with emeralds and rubies. Now, if you want a big honking one, like, 8 carats, an emerald cut to put in a big ring, and you buy it in a perfect, flawless state, if a jeweler looks at it with his eye, he doesn't know nothing. If the jeweler looks at it with a 10-power loupe, he sees a perfect ruby. And you don't have your own jet. You're not driving a Ferrari. And you're not wearing a suit of clothes that costs $40,000. So he's going to assume that you don't have an 8-carat perfect ruby that probably costs $500,000 to $1 million. So he's going to assume you got an artificial ruby that costs probably $900, $1,500. But if you get it with a little bit of inclusions in it, it's still going to look really good. And then if somebody looks at it, they're going to say, oh, this could be real. Of course, it's not perfect, but I'd just go get the perfect one. I wouldn't care. They would look slightly better in bright light and stuff like that, So you can get those, and they look, super good. The whole industry's changed. The only thing that's not yet fallen, and it's in process of falling, and I hope they all fall. They're such crooks. The imperial jade. The Oriental people believe that this does something like absorbs bad energy, which is, in my opinion, that's like saying Mickey Mouse is a real human being. It's a joke. So they're getting this done now with machines. They're getting machines to make the imperial jade artificially, and once enough of it gets out there, a really good piece of imperial jade they would put in like a man's ring, kind of a round dome-faced one. In a man's ring, they usually put it in a 22 or 24 karat gold ring. So the first problem you got is a man's ring is going to have to be at least an ounce, ounce and a half. So you're looking at $7,500 to $10,000 of gold. So if you go to platinum, it doesn't look right. The imperial jade needs gold. So that's your first problem: is what are you going to do for a ring? I don't know, but a good round piece of a stone, an imperial jade, that's going to look like 400, 500,000, or $1 million piece of imperial jade. I don't know. I guess if you got a good connection, it's probably going to cost you $1,500 instead of $1 million, and nobody will know the difference. But if you put it in sterling silver ring, which people are doing now, they're getting sterling silver rings, which cost, I don't know, maybe it costs you $200-300 for the ring with the artwork, and maybe less, but it won't look right. So you'd have to put it in gold. So how many people are going to buy a synthetic imperial jade and put it in 22 karat gold ring that's going to cost, $8,000 or $10,000? Not many. But if a guy's going to buy a $500 or $1 million piece of imperial jade, he'll certainly spend 10 grand to put it in 22 karat gold. See the thing? So how do you play this game? If you can afford it, you buy the gold and put the machine-grown imperial jade in it, in real gold, and most people are going to assume you had the real thing, not that. Some of it could be $2 million, $3 million. I mean, you can, you get really super perfect pieces of that stuff. I have a jade ring someplace that's made out of black jade. Jade's very hard, but it could be brittle too at the same time. Well, it could shatter something, but it's pretty hard if you bang it on a table by mistake. It won't do anything. It's real jade, but it's not that expensive. I got it, I don't know, 30, 35 years ago or something. It wasn't that much. The guy that I got it from had a chunk of jade, literally about this big. It was a jeweler I used to use, and he just took it off of there and worked it. You can get diamonds, black diamonds. You know that they're real. They really exist, and they're dirt cheap. But what do you want to do with black diamonds? I don't know. What are you going to do with them? I mean, you don't even need to buy the machine-made ones. The natural ones are dirt cheap. But I mean, what do you want to do? Put them in your shoes or something? I don't know. They don't glimmer and glisten and bounce the light around. They're black. So maybe if you had one of those $500,000 watches, you could put a ring of black diamonds. I don't know what people do with them. I don't know. What they're doing now is they'll take a good base metal like sterling silver, 99% sterling silver, right? And they have ways of coating the sterling silver with gold that makes it look a lot like gold. It really does. A jeweler, if he gets like 2-3 feet away, like probably 1 foot away, 2 feet, maybe 1 feet, and he looks at it in a good light. In other words, you're not in a restaurant or something like that. You're standing outside uh, in a park or a zoo with the sun and everything, he'll tell in a good natural light. But if you're in a movie theater or you're in a darkened restaurant, the guy ain't gonna tell. I'm talking about a jeweler. So you can get it in a rose gold, you can get it in a white gold, but you may as well just go with silver, you know. White gold and silver are rather right, very close. Or they get it in yellow gold. So you got yellow gold, you got white gold, and you got rose gold. Those are really the golds that people use. So you get it in a rose gold, it makes it a little harder to figure out what you did. So they're putting a lot of jewelry in that now. So they're making it look like gold, and it's not gold because gold's becoming so expensive, it's going to surpass diamonds. You know, when you get gold, if gold hits like $12,000 or $15,000 an ounce, it could be more expensive than diamonds. Wait, let's check. Hold on. Hold on. Let me check. I don't know the weight of these carats. Let's see. I'll say put the weight of a 2-carat diamond into ounces. No, it doesn't. A 2-carat diamond weighs about 0.014 uh, uh, ounces. So no, it's. A 2-ounce diamond would probably be the size of a baseball or a softball. No, I got off on it. That's not real. I got off on a tangent there. You can't do. No. Diamonds don't have enough weight at all. But see, so what they're doing is the people can't afford. Do you think these rappers that were buying the stuff to hang around their neck when they, you know, they have chains this big, so they would have a chain that weighs 2 pounds, 3 pounds, okay? Now, without an emblem on it, just a chain, okay? So you got 14.5 of the ounces, the way they calculate the price of gold, you know. In a pound. So you got 29 ounces, all right? So you got 29, this is by today's price, times 5,000. Wait, I hit the wrong button. I'll go back. Hold on. 29 ounces times 5, 1, 2, 3. I got to hit equal. There we go. You got $145,000 in gold necklace to be a big rapper with that big thick thing, right? 145,000 without any workmanship. Now, let's balance it out. They're going to probably make the chain in 14 karat. So you're going to have workmanship and profit and all that stuff. And, you know, so it's probably going to be, about 145,000 with everything. Okay. Maybe 130,000, something like that. Right. Now, they don't just stop there. They put little diamond chips all over the chain. Now, there's a cheap way of doing it. You put it on the parts of the chain that just shine out, so the inside of the chain you don't have the diamond chips, or you put them on over there. Now, I don't know, with a big chain like that hangs down to here, you're talking, oh, 4 carats of diamond chips, probably. So you got an expense there. And then they make an emblem that they hang off the chain. Usually it's something like this, like a playing card size picture of themselves or some stupid thing made out of solid gold that's probably going to weigh 2 ounces, 3 ounces, 4 ounces. Or you got more money. And what they're doing now is this. They're making the chain based on silver, which, you're talking with silver, 4,000, probably 3,000, 3,500, $4,000 in workmanship for the chain, right? Compared to 145,000. And then they take the chain and they coat it with this special coating. There's 2 types of doing it. I can't remember the name. One's like ICAN. I don't remember anymore. There's 2 ways of doing it where they coat it where it'll look a lot like gold and last a very, very long time. Not like a gold plating. This stuff is serious. So that doesn't usually cost a lot of money to do that. And they'll plate that. And then what they'll do is they'll input, instead of putting diamond chips on this thing, they'll use one of the synthetic cheaper diamonds, okay? And they'll put the little chips in there that look as good as diamonds and they glisten like all get up. And to get on a stage in front of the camera where the camera's far away, or even if he does a close-up, it's just the camera and these glaring lights. And they do that. So they're using silver and artificial diamonds and coloring of gold and getting up on stage. It looks like the guy's got $250,000, $500,000 piece of jewelry. That's what the industry's turning into, because it's become so expensive. So you're seeing a lot of jewelry going forth as, silver or stainless steel. Now, the other thing you're coming across is the watch industry is going crazy when they found out all these expensive watches were made in China, or mostly in China. They went nuts in the market crash. So they're not selling a lot of men's watches that are gold and platinum. They used to sell them with the gold bracelet on there, which could be 4 ounces of gold. So you're looking at 4 ounces of gold. It's 18 karat gold, so it's 75% gold. So you've got about $15,000 of raw material gold without the workmanship. So with the workmanship on the bracelet, you're probably at about 25,000. So a lot of people, that's on a reasonably priced watch. But if you're on a high-end watch like a Patek Philippe or a Rolex, they'll charge you $40,000 or $50,000 for the bracelet. Who wants to spend that? People don't want to do that. So they go get a cloth or a leather bracelet for $100. It's more economical, right? Sure it is. Much better deal, right? Okay. So they get it for $100 instead. Years ago, they would charge, when gold was $250, $300, $220, $190, whatever. They were charging like $5,000 for the bracelet, And people used to say, I'm not going to buy that stupid bracelet. I want the watch and I want the gold case on the watch, but heck, I could buy a brick of gold for $5,000. So, but everything is going so crazy now, there's nothing left in the jewelry industry anymore. These jewelry stores in the mall where they have the bright lights and they make all the rings sit in the case and they all glisten because they got the great lights and they polish them and clean them. those guys, I think if they haven't gone out of business, they're probably going to go out of business because they can't do well anymore. They need to be replaced by costume jewelry stores. The whole industry, I'm telling you, it's gone. It's gone. The only people that are still playing with the jewelry are the rich, the real rich. The guys with 100 million, and they don't care. They just go in and buy what they want. And oh, it costs more. Oh, okay. They don't care if they want to get their wife a tennis bracelet with diamonds on it that used to cost, $2,400. Now they got to spend 18 or 25 on it. They don't. They buy it anyway. They don't take into account. It's one thing when your wife's walking around in the mall with a $2,000 bracelet on. It's another thing when she's walking around in a mall with a $25,000 or $30,000 bracelet on. You know, guys used to buy about 25, 30 years ago these Mexican gold coins. It was a $50 or 50 peso coin. It was more than an ounce, a big thing. They used to buy it and put it on a big gold chain and hang it, around their neck. And man, that thing would be expensive today. uh, that would be expensive, that's for sure. Oh, yeah, that would be very expensive. Yeah, you don't see people doing that anymore. You know, people in Israel, you don't see them wearing expensive jewelry anymore. It used to be, they used to wear expensive watches in Israel. Rado watches used to be really popular. Rado makes um, watches out of a plastic. They have another word for it. Maybe it's a metal. I don't know. Covered with plastic, and it doesn't scratch. I mean, it won't scratch. So that was used to be the rage in Israel, and that was years ago. And they would cost $2,000 to $4,000 for a Rado, and they were all over the place in Israel. Everybody was buying them, and uh, heck, you could get a $15 Casio that'll do more than the Rado. You could get a $15 Casio that will do so much. Moon phase, 4 or 5 or 7 time zones, 5 or 6 alarms, gives you the day of the week. No, it gives you like Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. It gives you the the date, and it gives you the day of the week, and it'll even give you the month. And it's usually got a little water resistant. Now, what you can do with these things is open them up and take mineral oil, good pure mineral oil, which is, I don't know, $5, $6 a bottle, and put the mineral oil, you get it in a bowl or a cup, a big plate, and you put mineral oil inside the watch, maybe with an eyedropper so you don't flood all over the watch, and move it around gently when the watch is open on the back so the bubbles come out, and wait for the bubbles to be gone, and then close it up. And now your watch would be waterproof probably to at least 1 mile under the surface of the 1 mile down in the ocean. Just by putting a couple of dollars of mineral oil in it. You can look at that on the internet. They have that stuff up all the time. You know, it increases. See, oil doesn't compress. Air compresses. There's air in there now. So when the pressure from the water comes, it collapses it. But you can't collapse oil. It doesn't go anywhere. So your watch will now be heavily water resistant because it's filled with oil, and it looks better, and it gives you better legibility on the watch. I have a Casio like that. You could see it much better. It's noticeably better. It's not that much better, but it's noticeable. It's an interesting thing. So you could buy a good Casio, let's say one of Casio's super dupers for, I don't know, $100 and $80 or something. And, it'd be a G-Shock. You could take it up 30 feet and throw it down on the floor and it won't break. You could probably literally throw it at your wall and it won't break. Okay. It charges with solar or it has a 10-year battery. And it'll do so much. You can get them where they'll give you your heart rate, your oxygen, and all kinds of stuff. How many footsteps you took that day, all kinds of things. For a few bucks, maybe you could get some that do that for 60, 80, $100. And, people go out and spend 40, $50,000 on these Swiss watches that are made in China for the most part. And they don't do anything. All they do is they tell you the hour, the minutes, second hand. And if you're really lucky, it gives you the date. And if you want one that gives you the day of the week and the date, now you're talking maybe $100,000. The toughest watch in the world is not the Casios. They might have had a couple of models that were that good, but it's Victorinox, the guys that make the Swiss Army knife, make a watch, a special line of their watches. They put them through 130 tests. And I think you could actually play baseball with this thing, throw it up in the air and hit it with a bat. It just do anything. And it's an electric watch because you can't do it with an automatic self-winding. It doesn't do that. You got to use an electric watch. And you can dive in there. You can do anything you want with the thing. But again, what does it do? It gives you the hours and the minutes and maybe the day of the month. That's it. And Rolex, Patek Philippe, Omega, none of them have a watch that could do anything like this. You could take your $15 Casio and fill it with mineral oil or other kinds of good oil, and it'll go down deeper diving than a $100,000 dive watch Rolex. Or maybe not that, maybe a $25,000 one. It's the whole industry has gone completely crazy. It's just nuts, the whole industry. So it's pretty interesting. Pretty soon, what you're gonna, if prophetically time holds, which I doubt, you'll see things that look like big drones that you climb in and sit in it and fly. They've got them in China. The people are using them already. Now, I don't know what happens if the wind comes and it tilts and it dumps you out. What do? Well, you strap yourself in, okay. And that stinks if it's raining and cold and snowing and hail. So you need to have a fuselage in there that you can get inside. And they'll make that with the seat. And then I don't know if they're just going to let people fly them, like you could just fly a drone, or you got to take a course or something like that. And people, could you imagine the potential this has for thievery? Yeah. If you got a two-seater, one guy waits in the drone, the other guy goes out and does the crime in rush hour or something like that. Then they lift off and he flies away. The police don't have any way to pursue him. There's no identification on the drone. They wear masks or football helmets. What they wear is motorcycle helmets with dark glass. They do that in a lot of countries. They walk into the store with they got the motorcycle. They got a guy outside waiting on the motorcycle. They got the helmet on, and they got the big piece of glass here, which has a black or a dark red or something. Piece of glass, you can't see their face, and they got gloves on, and they rob you. They got no fingerprints, no photo. What are you going to get? There's no DNA. Your shoes and gloves don't leave DNA. What are you going to do? So imagine the crime potential with drones. Seeing people on the street walking and just dropping down and robbing them and jumping back in the drone. Uh, Imagine seeing people driving a drone, and you have a drone, and you pull next to them and point your gun at them and say, "Land or I'll kill you." And then they land and they say, "Get out." And then the other one jumps in the drone and flies away, and now they stole the drone, right? So you rob a store or a bank, you run outside and you jump in the drone where your buddy's flying it, he takes off. So people can come out and get the license plate number. Whoops, there is no license plate number. If you're supposed to have a number on it, they just hang a towel over it. And then they fly away. So what you need to stop crime with that is you'd have to have a drone patrol. So they have to have cops that can go chase the drone. This is pretty wild, isn't it? But you got to understand, if society allows and prophetic time allows, it'll probably within a year it'll be happening. And they're going to try to make these things run on AI so you don't have to worry about flying it. You just put your destination, and so it's like your car. You type the address you want to go to, and your car tells you turn right, turn left, go here at the third thing, make a right, and they get you there. But this is a little different because it actually flies you there. Just tell it the destination and sit back. I'll be right back. China's making cars that fly, but they're very deceptive. You'd think you get in the car and the whole car picks up and flies. It doesn't do that. You get in the car and you drive it as a car. And then if you want it to fly, you get out of the car and you leave the like the car motor and the drivetrain and the wheels and a lot of the fuselage stays behind. And just like where you sit type thing flies up out of the car and it turns into a flying car that way, which is a deception, really. In the late 50s or the early 60s, they made little cars in America. I'm old enough to remember that. They were small cars. They had a back seat, a front seat. They were convertibles, rather small, like a Fiat 500, maybe a little bigger than that, a little bigger. And it was a car and a boat. And if there was a beach, you could drive the car onto the beach and just drive the car into the water. And you had to switch stuff over. And it had one propeller, and it would start, it would float, and the propeller would propel the car, and had exhaust, and it kept it out of the water. And the tires just stayed there. They didn't come up to the side or go in or anything. They just stayed there. And you would just drive in. So you would, just start driving in the water. And then when you wanted to get out, you turned it around. Now, they stayed dry. The doors kept the water out. And the engine compartment kept the water from the motor. Apparently, I don't know for how many years it would work, but people were buying them. I used to see them parked on the street, and it had a convertible top. So if it was cold and you were driving around or rainy, you could put the top up. It had windows, and drive it around town like a little car. And then when you wanted to go do it as a boat, you would just go in the water. I imagine you'd probably want to put the convertible top down in case you had to jump out for some reason. I don't know. Maybe you wouldn't. I don't know. And you had a windshield. So you had windshield wipers, and the interior was rather waterproof, and so that was something that I can't remember what the aqua car or something they called it. I don't know. They were maybe $3,000 back then, something like that. They sold a rather good amount of them. People thought it was a really cool idea. And if you had access to a beach or a road that went into the water, you could just drive in, and then when you wanted to come home, just reverse it, drive yourself up onto the sand where maybe the water was not deep anymore, and then shut off your propeller and switch the propulsion to your rear tires and just drive out of the water and go back on the highway, and you were all set. I don't think they make that stuff anymore. I don't know why. I imagine people would buy it. The joke was if the cops were chasing you, you just go in the water, But if they make flying drones that people could just buy for a few $1,000 and jump in it, I'm telling you, the crime potential is amazing on something like that. And the police would be unprepared for at least 18 to 36 months. And the small police departments would take many years till they ever adapted to it. The big ones, LA, New York, Miami, yeah, they'd adapt to it pretty quick. They'd have some drone units around, but it wouldn't do any good. I mean, let's say you're in New York. Let's say you robbed a diamond guy at 49th and 7th Avenue. You came down, you landed, and you on a side street, and you grabbed the guy's diamonds or whatever. You got back in and you fly away. So the guy gets on his cell phone or somebody says, hey, they came here, they robbed this guy, blah, blah, blah. So you go into the central dispatch, and then dispatch has got to say, where was this? So then they put it in the computer. Then the artificial intelligence analyzes it and sends it to the aerial unit. And then they want to know if anybody, they probably have transponders in their drones that would say where they are, and then try to get the police drones to find the drone that did the robbery. So by the time they get done doing that, it's probably 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Okay. And then where does the guy start? I mean, it's not like roads where they know the different routes the guy can take. With this thing, there's any route the guy can take. He got 360 degrees he could go. And if you're looking for him, what altitude are you looking at him for? The guy could be flying at 25, 35 feet, or he could be flying at 150 feet, or maybe he's flying at 400 or 500 feet. How are you going to find him? He could be flying at night. You're not even going to see him. He's not going to keep headlights on. society is going to go nuts. So I wanted to tell you guys something again. Hold on. Something you might appreciate that is free. Hold on. I gotta get rid of this. Go to my browser. Let me check it. There's a site called Poe.com. It looks like this. POE.com. It's a free site. Although when it's free, you get limited use of it. It must be 150 or 100 different AI programs you could use for free. So it's an aggregator site, but they only give you you can use it maybe 3 times, like 3 searches a day, then you got to stop. But you could buy it. It's not that much money. Probably standard $30 a month. And they got it, I believe, has open.ai, which is, you can access that for free too by itself. But open.ai, open means the source code is open, so there's no biases built into it. Okay. And there's so many different AIs here that you could use. Chat GPT is very good for some things, guys, and it's very bad for other things. It makes a lot of mistakes. I was sitting there asking it how to make things work with my iPad, and it keeps giving me bad information. I went to Gemini, which is free, the Google one, and I got great information from them. But it has things in here like GPT-5.2 Pro. Now, that's probably the $300 a month GPT. The one that I use is, oh no, this could be the same thing. I have one that's 5.2, but it's not Pro. So there would be a difference. Yeah, so it would be different. The Pro is probably the expensive one. So you would get more capability, more speed out of it. Then they got another one you could use called GPT 5.2 Instant. I don't know what that does. I never bothered with it. Then they got Gemini's. They got a Gemini 3 Pro. And what do I have for the free Gemini? I don't know. It just says Gemini. I don't know what it is. It's probably not the Pro or anything. real expensive or anything like that. This is the free Gemini. But I mean, it's probably got 150 of these things, so some crazy number like that, of all different kinds. So if you do the research, you'll find that there's certain kinds of AI that are good for like history, others for languages, others for math, others for programming. There's different families, like there's the Chat GPT, there's Claude, there's other kinds of stuff, you know. Uh, you got open source. Um, Let me see what else I got. You got search, you got artificial intelligence search. Like there's a GPT 4.0 search. So they got search GPTs that help you do searches if you want to find stuff on the internet. Then they got an image GPT that'll have these things and make images for you. But you got to do the paid version of Poe if you want to make images and stuff. You're going to have to go to the pro, to the pay. But if you're just a casual, lightweight user, you know you can get like 3 searches a day. Like if you said, you know, like, well, how many ships does America have in the Persian Gulf region now? You know, something like that. You know, searches like that, or you know, you said, what's the constitutional, you know, features of what Trump did with the Gaza border peace, you know, things like that. You could get about 3 of those a day, and then they shut you off. Not 3 for each program, a total of 3. So if you just want to use it very lightweight, that'll do it. But if you want to do it, you know, like you're a serious user, like I use it several times a day for sure. So I believe I paid for the paid version of Poe so I can use all these different search engines, these different AI rather. They got one here, it's an AI generated dictionary. I don't even know what that is. Then they got bots. I don't know what the bot does. Concept, or I have no idea what the bot. They got more than they must have hundreds of stuff here. Now that I'm looking at it, YouTube viral script. I have no idea what that does. They have what's called SEO, search engine optimization. So they'll redo your website to get more hits in the search engine. I doubt it'll do any good, though. Seriously doubt it. But, you know, you could go through it. But, of course, there's millions of people that'll do it, and it's just going to say. Then they got programming bots to help you write programs. They got mind bots, which I have no idea what. Oh, here's one called Sermon Master. Could you imagine that? I would never build a sermon from AI, but the pastors probably are. They got a psychological bot. They got a Bible teacher bot. They got one with a cross called Being Christ. They got one on tarot cards. Another one on tarot cards, which I would never go near. You can't delete them because they're on the master. They're on their website, so I can't delete it. They got one called Think Out Loud. I wouldn't use any of their Bible stuff. It's just not going to come out right. They got a lot of Bible AI. Okay. Then you got So what I'm saying is, for the price you would pay for one AI like Chat GPT or Grok or something like that, you could join Poe, and if you use their website, you get hundreds of AI, and they don't give you unlimited use when you pay them, but you get a heck of a lot of time on it. Um, if you were really somebody that was using it all day, then you'd have to get a business plan, which is probably another $15 a month or something like that. And that would probably not be unlimited, but it would be approaching, and it would allow for several employees in your operation to use it at the same time and stuff. So, uh, they have an essay writer. They got grading. I don't know what that does. Uh, they got another one called Mr. Education. I guess this is stuff for teachers. Uh, then they got utility bots. I don't know. So anyway, it just keeps going and going and going. It doesn't end what they got available. It's just incredible. They got game bots, I guess, to help you play games. They got learning bots that looks like they're for kids. It must be in the hundreds what they got here. It's incredible. So I think it's let me tell you, I think I know what it costs. Let's see. Hang on a second. I'll get you a good price. One second. Coming in at my guess at $21, $22 a month, which is probably about what you're going to pay for one program like ChatGPT or Grok or something like that. So they might be a little more convenient to use because they're in an app form. Instead of this, you got to use your browser, go to the website, and it's got hundreds of these things, and pick one out. But you could also, let's say, type your search words in, like in the book of Kings, 2 Kings, chapter 4, verse 2. I'm just making this up. It mentions this city, blah, 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 blah. Where is this city today? What would it be called today? Let's just say something like that. Put it in, hit enter, boom, you get a result. Then say, gee, I'm not sure they're right. Put it in two other different AIs that work differently, and then take the consensus. If they all agree, then you probably got a good answer. They work great. I'm telling you, if you want to fix something in your body and you ask it what type of supplements will work, they're really good at that. They're really good. They're like a doctor. They'll diagnose you better than a doctor. Um, what's going to happen if prophetically not only we got drones, prophetically if time will allow, which I don't believe it would, they'll have these AIs work with surgery. So you go to the hospital, you lay down, and they probably have an AI anesthesiologist. You'd have clerks that would actually put the mask on you and turn dials, and it would tell it what to do. And then they might have some kind of AI robotic that actually performs the surgery. What is self-driving car? It's AI, you know. They got these little electric cars that old fogies use like me, the way you could drive around in a little village here, and they might make those with AI, but it's so small here. Why would you even need it? I didn't buy it because my vision is not so great, and I didn't want to run into a hole or something like that, so I didn't do it. Plus, the other problem is how do you get maintenance on it? And they're a lot of money. They're probably $2,000 or something. It'd be fun for me. I got nothing to do, and I could take one of the dogs, and the place would be lock up the doors so the dog can't get out, keep the window open, and drive around and let the dog bark at all the other dogs. The dog would love that. They would think that's the greatest thing in the world. You know, let's go on a bark fest. Yeah, okay, let's go. You know, the only thing they would think would be better than that is a trip to the grocery store and buy some meat. They would think that is a better one. But I use the AI for translation in old things. Like I say, get me the oldest Septuagint you can and translate this verse or this chapter from the Greek in the Septuagint to literal English using Scott's lexicon as a guide. I'll do things like that. Or I could say with Hebrew, use Jacinius, but don't use the English Jacinius, use the German Jacinius as a guide and then put it into English. You see, that's so complicated. You're taking old Hebrew and you're interpreting it with a work done in German and then translating it into English. But this thing could do it. And this can work in any language. It'll work um, uh, in Chinese. Here, watch. Let me show you. So you can't be afraid of this. And, oh, this is satanic and stuff like that. Well, what about your? I don't know what happened to my browser here. I'll try making it right side up. That'll fix it, I think. What is this? This is annoying. Oh, I got it. All right, it was. Oh, it opened up another app. Okay, let me show you how this thing could work. Okay. Um, I am going to recite a phrase to you in English, and I would like you to speak it back to me out loud in Mandarin Chinese. Okay? It's not, this is saying it's not going to do it. It's telling me it'll just give it back to me in type. Let me try a different thing. I might have the sound turned off. Let me check it. No, this one doesn't do it. Let me try a different one. I have had him do it. Maybe it's the other ones that do it. What is today's date? Oh, I had the settings turned off. That's the problem. Okay. Now I can fix it. I had the microphone off. Now it should work. Okay. That's probably why the other one didn't do it either. Can you tell me today's date? Sound is off. Try it again.
Say something. I'll sound it off for you.
What is today's date?
It's Sunday, January 25th, 2016.
I'm going to read a phrase to you. Can you translate it into Mandarin and speak it back to me?
Sure, read away.
The rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain.
西班牙的雨落在平原上。
Repeat that again.
西班牙的雨落在平原上。
Did you see what that thing did? I read it a phrase in English and it came back to me at Mandarin. It'll do 128 languages. You want to learn Hebrew? Why go to one of those schools or go online and pay some guy? You could just do it here. Here, watch. Let me, I'll show you how it works. Can you speak to me in Hebrew this phrase? How much does the bus cost?
כמה עולה האוטובוס?
That was exactly right. Kama ole means price, autobus means bus. It was 100% accurate. Okay. Let's try something more complicated. Put this in Hebrew for me. I would like a seat on the plane directly behind the wing with a window.
אני רוצה מושב במטוס, ממש מאחורי הכנף, עם חלון.
You see? Do you realize the era we've gone into with this stuff? You can use this as a language teacher for any language. Any language. You could turn this thing on if, let's say, you're watching Netflix and they're talking. It's not fast enough for that. No. You can buy, I think, some headphones that will give you real time. So somebody could speak to you in the headphones and it'll tell you, they could speak to you in Japanese and the headphones will tell you what they said in English, but it won't tell you what to say, how to pronounce the Japanese and answer them in Japanese. So it's got grievous limitations there, but it is interesting. So let's say I wanted to, I could do anything with this. I could, here, show you some of the stuff I use. Okay. How old is the oldest Masoretic Hebrew text of the Old Testament that you can access?
The Leningrad Codex, dating back to around 1090, is the earliest complete Masoretic Hebrew manuscript I have a record of.
If we're going to work with fragments of the Hebrew Old Testament, what are the oldest fragments you can access?
The oldest Hebrew fragments from the Old Testament I'd point to are the Dead Sea Scrolls, some dated as early as the 3rd century BCE.
See, I could send it back, and I've been doing this online, to 300 years before Yeshua was on earth, accessing the Old Testament, and that means they didn't have the axe to grind with the Messiah. How's them apples? See the kind of stuff you could do? The Septuagint is the Old Testament written in Hebrew. I'm sorry, written in Greek. They translated from the Hebrew to the Greek. What is the oldest Septuagint that you can access in Greek?
The earliest surviving bits of the Septuagint are from the 2nd century BCE, like the Rylands Papyrus and Nash Papyrus fragments.
Can you access a New Testament in Hebrew?
No, Hebrew isn't original to the New Testament. It's Greek. There are modern Hebrew translations, sure, but the oldest ones date to the 1800s, and I don't pull live texts.
What is the oldest Hebrew text for the New Testament made in Hebrew?
The earliest Hebrew translation of the New Testament I know of comes from the 19th century, like Franz Delitzsch's version in 1877. Nothing older survives in any meaningful form.
Can you access that Delitzsch translation?
No, I don't keep full manuscripts stored up. Just know about them. That one's public domain, though, so if you like, I can search up a line or two for you.
Now, see, this is Grok. Now, let's see what the other one, GPT, will do, if it'll access. Now, this should work with voice now. What is the oldest Hebrew New Testament you can access?
你能找到的最古老的希伯来语新约版本是什么？
Okay, you're speaking back to me in Chinese. Please answer me in English. What
is the oldest Hebrew New Testament you can access?
Yes, can you tell me the answer to that question?
The New Testament was originally written in Greek, so there isn't an ancient Hebrew manuscript of it from early Christianity. Modern Hebrew translations were made much later, mostly in the 19th and 20th centuries. So the oldest Hebrew New Testament you'll find is from those modern translations, just not ancient times.
The oldest one would be done by Delitzsch?
Exactly. The Delitzsch Hebrew New Testament, translated by Franz Delitzsch in the late 19th century, is the most well-known early Hebrew translation. He finished it in the 1870s, and it's still widely used by Hebrew-speaking readers today.
Is that the one with Salkinsons?
Yes, exactly. After Delitzsch passed away, a scholar named Gustav Dahlmann took over, but then Israel Salkinson's earlier work was also referenced. So the Delitzsch Hebrew New Testament, as we know it, definitely carries traces of both Delitzsch's and Salkinson's efforts.
Can you access that for me?
I can't directly access or share that text here, but the Delitzsch Hebrew New Testament is widely available online. You can check resources like Bible study websites or digital archives that host public domain biblical translations. If you're looking for something specific in it, I can help explain or guide you to find it.
Why is it that you cannot access it? It's public domain.
You're right that it's in the public domain. The reason is simply that I don't have direct access to external databases or documents from here. But if you have a specific verse or passage you're interested in, I can absolutely help you understand or discuss it once you find it.
Okay, thanks. So that's interesting, but I have a copy of that in my iPad. So what I could do is, if I wanted it translated, because it doesn't have Strong's number, I could maybe translate it myself. But let's assume you had no knowledge of Hebrew. You can cut and paste a few chapters out, put it in the AI, and have it made into English. You want me to do a demo with that? I can do that. See, I'm trying to show you how you can use AI without being a dumbbell, and help study the Bible with it in a way that you never could do before. So I'll do this. Let me find it. I got it here somewhere. I got two. This is Salkinsons. Stinking thing went away. I hate iPads. Okay, let's try it again. All right. So we got to get into New Testament. Let's see. We'll go to 2 Peter 3. We'll go to 10. Let's do that. So I'll cut and paste. Did I get this? Oh, I got to cut and paste right to left. I forget. I went to Hebrew school for several years as a kid, but we didn't have computers, and I never got into cutting and pasting. Let's see if I get it right this time. I didn't get the whole thing, but let me just get a piece of it, and then I'll put it in. All right. It did it without reading it to me, but it shows me the. I put the Hebrew in because I wasn't talking now. I was typing it in. So it says, but in the night, but in the night the heavens will pass away with a great noise. The elements will melt because of the fire, and the earth and the works that are in will go up in flame. See, so I'm getting an actual better New Testament than the King James. And it breaks all the words down, and I could tell it, I could ask it, why did you do this? I could get it to compare it with the King James next to each other, and stuff like that. These are things that we were never able to do before because it was so hard. Okay? And so you can really use this to study the Bible. You can use it to, when you see a name of a city or a country, you can say, where is this today? And it'll tell you. If you see something in there like, did this happen, or is this prophecy for the future when it's mentioning a city like Edom? Yeah, let's try that. We'll go to Jeremiah 49. I'll show you how we do this. Okay. In the Bible, Jeremiah chapter 49, it talks about a place called Edom, Edom, being destroyed. Number one, where is this place Edom today? And has this ever happened previously? Has Edom been destroyed already?
Edom was an ancient kingdom located in the region of what is now southern Jordan, just to the southeast of the Dead Sea. It was known for its rugged mountains and its capital Petra. Historically, Edom did face destruction and conquest multiple times. The Babylonians, around the 6th century BCE, played a significant role in its downfall, and over the centuries the Edomites were displaced or assimilated into other populations. By the time of the Roman era, Edom, or Idumea as it became known, had largely lost its distinct identity. So yes, Edom as an independent entity has long since ceased to exist.
Why do people say Edom is Yemen today?
Some people make that connection based on certain historical or biblical interpretations. In ancient times, both Edom and regions of southern Arabia, including Yemen, were known for trade routes, and some traditions link the names or tribes of Edom with Arab peoples. However, from a strict historical and archaeological perspective, Edom was located in southern Jordan, not Yemen. The idea of Edom being Yemen today is more of a symbolic or speculative association rather than a geographically or historically accurate one.
See, now I disagree with that. That she pulls this out of churchianity books at times. I don't agree with that. Okay, Moab is in Jordan, and I don't know, but I recognize Edom as being in Yemen. I don't get it as being up there. Let's see what it says about Elam. What country is Elam, Elam, in the Bible today?
Elam in the Bible referred to a region located in what is now southwestern Iran, near the modern city of Shush, ancient Susa. Elam was a distinct ancient civilization and kingdom. Over time, it was absorbed into the Persian Empire, and its identity faded. So today, Elam corresponds roughly to that part of Iran, but of course it no longer exists as a separate entity or culture.
That's reasonably accurate. See, you got to be careful with it. So then you got to put it in another AI if you want to check and balance this thing. So we could try that. Let's see. In the Bible, in Jeremiah chapter 49, it mentions a place called Edom, Edom. Where is that place today?
Edom's the old name for what stretches through southern Jordan now, mostly the area around Petra and the valleys southeast of the Dead Sea.
Yeah, I don't go for that. I researched it a long time ago, and I believe it's Yemen. Anyway, and I'm not by myself. There's a lot, a lot of people that believe it's Yemen, and it fits in with prophecy today because of what Yemen's been doing against Israel and allying themselves with Iran. So you got to be careful with this. It's not always right, okay, but it can do you a lot of good with translations and many other things, okay? When you start asking it for analytical answers, it's going to give you things that churchianity says. It's going to pull it from there. That's the problem you're getting from this. And churchianity conceals, not reveals. So, anyway, I hope you got some. It was right on Iran, except it also can include Iraq and Syria because this Elam country was occupying uh, militarily Iraq and Syria too, so for centuries at a time. So it could be that, although they didn't change the name. That's the background there. So you just get rough, estimates. Jordan is Ammon in the north and Moab, I suppose. And I would put Edom, it's not that far away from Yemen, but that's what I would put it at. Anyway, now there's Dedan that pops up. Maybe you don't know where Dedan is, so that's an easy fix. Where is Dedan in the Bible prophecies? Is that in Saudi Arabia?
Dedan shows up in Ezekiel 38 and 25 and Genesis 2. That's northwest Saudi Arabia, near the edge of the empty quarter. Biblical maps put it around Al Ula today, give or take.
So you see, it can be useful. Can be useful. So I hope you got something out of that. So you can do it for free. Gemini is the Google version. It's free. You can get the app. It's free. After you use it a lot, and I mean you got to use it a lot, it'll freeze you out for a while, maybe an hour or two, but you got to really use it a lot. ChatGPT has a lot of inaccuracies. In my experience, Grok is better, but it's slower. But if you get that Poe, you got all the AI you'd ever know what to do with, And if you pay them that, I don't know, that $21 a month, you're not going to be able to use it unlimited. Like, you might not be able to say, well, go back and find this old manuscript of the Old Testament and translate it into modern English for me using Gesenius and Brown, Driver, and Briggs and Strong's as your basis. And, it would do that, but if you told it to do the whole Bible, I think, unless you had some very expensive plan, it would freak out. But if you said, do the book of Daniel, chapters 1 to 6, it would be glad to do that. And then you say, do Daniel 7 to 12, and it would do that. And then you say, do Malachi, and it would do that. And then you say, do Zechariah 1 to 6, and then, 6 to 14. You break it up and it would do it, Then you have to figure out a way to save it, so you cut and paste it and get some sort of, an app that would hold it. But then you have trouble accessing it. So if I wanted to do, and I do this sometimes, and it works for me, if I was just going to read, Romans 11, okay, what I just do is please put Romans chapter 11 in the King James up on the screen, please.
I'm sorry, but I can't display the entire chapter due to copyright restrictions. However, if you'd like, I can summarize key points.
Yeah, summarize key points will be the end of you. Let's try another one. Put the Bible, King James Version, the book of Romans, chapter 11, up on the screen, please.
Romans 11, King James. I am not going to read the whole thing out loud. It's 26 verses. But verse 1, I say,
Please put on the screen in type form King James Version of the Bible, Romans chapter 11, the whole chapter. Put it on the screen in type form. Let me just type it. It seems to be putting it up. There's no copyright on King James. I don't know why the other one didn't want to do it. Probably because I did it with voice. Yeah, here it is. It came up, chapter 11. Now I could tell it to translate into Hebrew. Put Hebrew next to English. Now, you guys don't speak Hebrew, so it wouldn't do a great deal of good for you, but I'll show you what it looks like. I'm going to come back in a second. It's going to be a minute while it does that. It's going to go line by line. I'll be right back. All right. I think it did it. Let's see. If you look at it, you'll see this Hebrew in there with the English. But you don't read Hebrew, so it's not going to help you. Okay, so I think I gave you a decent crash course in artificial intelligence in the Bible. You got to remember that they tell you these things make mistakes. Yeah, someone says information has increased. Yes, 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 of course. So when you go out and you pay for Chat GPT or Grok or any of these others, they're charging you the same or more as getting Poe, P-O-E, which has hundreds of them. They rip you off. They get people that aren't geeks. The geeks don't do that. The geeks go to the aggregator sites like that. And if you want one that's not biased, you got to use OpenAI. And I think Poe has that there someplace. It probably does. There's another one called Llama that's open source, that kind of thing. So in other words, geeks go through the program, they go through every line of the code to make sure there's no biases put in there. Okay? Now, they're not going to let you, like if you said to it, I want to rob Fort Knox and steal all the gold. Can you make a plan for how I should do that? They're not going to do that for you. Okay? But they'll do quite a lot of other things for you. If you had symptoms like I banged my hand, I hit the elbow, and now it feels tingly and numb and cold here, yet it flashes hot. I have no idea. I'm just making this stuff on the fly. It'll tell you whether or not it's any good, But it does things like, I know red light therapy works because I use it. Many of you people use it too. You got it from me. And it works. And you tell this about red light therapy, and some of the AIs will tell you it doesn't work. I don't know what this one says. I can try it. But well, I don't want to be here all day. But I hope it helped you. So you go to get the best deal. I don't sell anything, so you can't get anything from me. I don't sell anything. It's wrong. I can't make merchandise out of God's people. But it's Poe.com, Poe.com, Poe.com. It's the aggregator site. It's free. They have points, and you'll get to use probably 3 searches, and that's it for the day. And that might be enough for some of you guys. Gemini, the Google one, you could download the app, and that's free. It doesn't do a lot. It won't make an image. It's limited, but it's good. If I want to know how to fix something in the computer, I'll use Gemini. It's usually real good. If I want to know what kind of a supplement I should take because there's something going on in my body, I'll use ChatGPT because it's real good. And then I'll use Grok for some things, but I've got to close these things out because they're the pay accounts. And when I first started using AI, I didn't realize they were turning me into a sucker. And, they're convenient, but you want to have the ability to use multiple AIs so you can compare them. Okay. So you can look at the Hebrew New Testament and probably ask it to translate it into English for you. So if you want to know something in the passage in the New Testament and you want to know what it really says, the Hebrew is way more accurate, but I'm losing my battery. So let me try one quick, and then we'll see if it'll do it. Can you look in the Hebrew New Testament, Delich, for Romans chapter 11, verse 4, and translate it into English for me?
In the Delitzsch Hebrew New Testament, Romans 11:4 is a translation of Paul's message about God's response to Elijah. In English, it would be, "But what is the divine response to him? I have reserved for myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to Baal."
So you see, you can, if you're concerned about something in the New Testament that doesn't make sense, go to the Delitzsch and Salkinson New Testament in Hebrew and have them translated into English. You can get you see how great this. I mean, but what should you never do? Ask it when the rapture occurs or something like that, because it doesn't know. It's going to tell you what the churches tell you. Okay. Anyway, let's see it. Hold on. Is the concept of a pre-tribulation rapture real or not founded by anything in the Bible?
The concept of a pre-tribulation rapture, where believers are taken up before a period of end times tribulation, is a theological interpretation rather than a direct explicit teaching in the Bible. Different Christian groups interpret prophetic passages differently. Some point to verses like 1 Thessalonians 4:16-17 or 1 Corinthians 15:51-52, interpreting them as possible references to a rapture event. Others see those passages as part of a single second coming. In short, the pre-tribulation rapture is a doctrinal position that emerged more fully in the 19th century, and while some believers find support in certain biblical passages, others do not see it clearly laid out in the text.
How can you interpret the pre-tribulation rapture in the light of John chapter 6, verse 39 and 40?
In John 6:39-40, Jesus speaks about raising believers up on the last day. Those who question a pre-tribulation rapture often point out that if Jesus explicitly ties the resurrection or gathering of believers to the last day, then it's hard to reconcile that with a rapture event occurring significantly earlier. In other words, they interpret that Jesus is indicating a culminating event, not separate stages. On the other hand, those who hold to a pre-tribulation rapture might see the last day as a broader period encompassing end-time events. Ultimately, the interpretation hinges on whether one views the last day as a single final event or as part of a longer prophetic timeline.
See, the problem is this is churchianity. We don't know what the truth is. It might be this, it might be that. The last day means there's no more days. What the heck else can it mean? Okay? That's after the millennium, after Satan's released, and he gathers them like the sand of the sea around Jerusalem, New Jerusalem. Then Father God, Jehovah, comes down from heaven, the dead rise. He burns up the whole universe. There's no place to stand. We meet him in the air. We go up to heaven on the clouds of heaven. There's no left behind rapture anywhere in the Bible, but you see, it won't give you a clear answer. So when you start trying to use artificial intelligence for doctrine, it's as dumb as talking to the pastors in the denominations. They're not going to give you anything good. Okay? You won't get good fruit from AI there. For hard work, it'll work. Translation, maybe did this occur in history, that kind of thing. Where is this geographical place? What does this word mean? That kind of thing. Don't try it with doctrine. It's ridiculous. Okay. All right, I'm going to get a prayer out for us. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray for me and my wife and all the true believers and their households. I pray um, we would have strength, stamina, and endurance, and we would have your healing and recuperative power flowing through us, that we wouldn't get sick or hurt, and we would keep healing. Our bodies would keep healing constantly as needed. And I pray that we would be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole, and our animals and pets would also. And I pray we have no accidents, no tickets, no breakdowns, no getting stopped, stuck, or stranded with any car or vehicle. I pray we get through this cold weather storm, those of us that are going through this in America and other places, and they don't suffer from this or have any bad events, and their power stays on. And I pray that we don't get robbed, ripped off, scammed, frauded, discriminated against, picked on by employers, governments, neighbors, lawyers, whatever. And we would get all our packages delivered in one piece on time. And I pray for better videos. I pray we understand the Bible better. I pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and I pray that the unclean spirits don't interfere with us or our sleep, or those that serve the unclean spirits don't interfere with us or our sleep, and our sleep would be sweet, and we would wake up at a good hour without any disturbances, and we wouldn't get up a lot during the night. And I pray we would have adequate finances and then some. And if we need work, we find work. If we need customers or clients for our business, we find that and we get that. And I pray that we don't have any worrisome or fearful thoughts, ideas, or notions. We stay strong in the Lord, and you would keep your Spirit poured out on us, and we would walk in the gifts of the Spirit, and we would have signs and wonders following the preaching of the true word. And I pray all this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with this. And please agree with me. Please agree with me. My Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, you know I'm having some intestinal problems. They're of a temporary nature. And I pray you would heal that and I get relief quickly. And also that I pray my right hip feels like it's out of joint. It keeps clicking around, and I pray it goes back into place and stays in place and stops bothering me. And I submit these prayers to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And please agree with these, even if it's a video. If you're a believer, please agree. I've been trying to remember to do that one for the hip for ages. And now I carry firewood, and it keeps bothering me when I go down the steps holding a lot of firewood. So I appreciate that. And I could try to answer questions about artificial intelligence if you want, or you could download the free artificial intelligence, the app Gemini, and ask it. It'll tell you about other artificial intelligence programs. Yeah, it will. It's a great diagnostician for medical stuff. It really is. But if you do that, it's a good idea to try it with at least two of these artificial intelligences, if not three, just to make sure nobody made a mistake, And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out. I hope you got something out of this. Thanks, guys.